gonna have a time.
Hey gang, welcome back. It's another episode of the TV show Having a Time with Jittery Jack. That's me, Jittery Jack, coming to you from Boston, Massachusetts. We got a great episode lined up. We're going to head out west, Pacific Northwest in fact, to Seattle. We're going to go to the Rockabilly Ball, which is a heck of a party thrown every year. There's a cat called Mr. Marshall Scott Warner. He's in charge of it these days, but for many years it was Leon Berman, the proctologist of rock and roll. He was the host, but Marshall's keeping it going. We've been out a couple times in the last few years. It's always a fantastic time. So I've got a little footage of the show itself. Then we headed out to a fantastic studio out in Seattle that's owned by Mr. Roy Kay. You probably know Roy from the Margraves and his many projects through the years. He's a talented guy, and he has a really killer setup down there. It was a special time for me because we got to go into the studio with a very dear friend of mine. We all know and love her. Her name is Miss Amy. She's the finest guitar player in the land, in my opinion. She's my best friend in the whole wide world, and I was very happy to get the chance to go in and record her debut 45 7-inch coming out on Rockin Records, Sean Law's label from Vancouver, Canada. So what do you say? Let's take a trip out to Seattle. You know the deal. I got my drink already, one step ahead of you. Pour yours, hit pause, then hit go. Let's go to Seattle. Alright, so here I am with Mr. Sean Law, president of Rockin Records. How you doing, Sean? Tell us a little bit about the label. What's out? What's coming out?
Currently out, I've got 2 different 7-inches. The first one is basically a Neo Rockabilly 45, and the second one is something I'd call it dark, music dark. It's like dark garage, dark punk. Basically a bit of a throwback to the death rock of the 80s. Of a Cramps feel to it. So part of the way this label started was I've been a record collector for decades, really. And one thing I was always fascinated with was the concept of the company sleeve. This is a sleeve with no photographs, no artists, no nothing. It's just the company name. And you know, there's hundreds of these designs that have been around for years. So I decided to press ahead and actually make it happen.
Good work.
So this one here, first one, there's 500 pressed, yellow vinyl, comes with a download card because I used to work in music retail, and I collected a lot of records and buy a lot of new releases, and I kind of found that I think a download card is important. That's a good idea. I like having them. I mean, I buy 7-inches all the time, and basically I kind of figured that whenever I was buying a new 7-inch, if it didn't come with a download card, I kind of felt a little bit ripped off. So therefore, as long as I can do it, all of my releases will have download cards with them.
Cool.
Switch it up for each successive release. There's going to be different color schemes for each release, and I don't know. We'll see what happens down the line.
It looks great, man. Killer.
There's going to be 300 pressed of the Margraves 45. That's going to be on gold wax. At the first New England Shake-Up Weekender, Miss Amy was involved in a live on stage jam session with various artists that were performing, and at one point her and Bloodshot Bill did a rockin' intro together, and I recognized it. It was this track called Shiftin' Gears by Beep Beep and the Roadrunners. It's kind of a 60s thing, very hard guitar, driving guitar thing. I first heard it on the Strum and Mental compilations. And I got a hold of Amy after the fact, and I was like, hey, this, I think I sent her the video, and I was like, this is Shiftin' Gears, right? And she's like, yep. And I said, well, have you got that out on record or what? And she's like, no, we just learned it off of YouTube that afternoon. So I was like, well, I think you should have that out on record because it was really wonderful. My friend Roy Kay, a very talented man, has a basement studio, and I was like, okay, this is perfect. We're going to be in the same city. You're going to have all the players on hand, and we have a studio, so let's go do this.
I was able to back Miss Amy up, which was a great treat for me because, well, she's my favorite guitar player in the whole wide world. But
she is wonderful.
Yes, indeed.
Amy's guitar playing, well, it just super appeals to me. I'll admit I'm a total maniac about guitar playing. That's like, I mean, that's my thing. Is I just love electric guitars. I love, you know, rock and roll with electric guitars is me. That's my thing. And I love women. You stick the two together, kryptonite.
Oh, Miss Amy is, what can I say? She's got a lot of talent. She's gifted. I mean, wow, you know, Miss Amy, I know she can take it. You give her a solo, she just takes off, you know. That's what you want.
Miss Amy is the rockin' guitar gal.
Miss Amy, you gotta check out Miss Amy. Woo, makes the hairs hurt in your arm.
All right, welcome to Madrona Ranch. I'm Roy Kay. Very happy to have Kevin and Amy in here doing some amazing recordings this afternoon. I guess we have some working titles. I won't mention what they are. It's similar to Amy's thought process, I hear. They did a great job. Amy did some amazing guitar stuff today. There's some great behind-the-scenes stuff like slicing her finger and super glue and all sorts of great things happen. I'm really looking forward to hearing how these things turn out, and I hope you are too. We've done the Star Jays, the Margraves, the Ricky Trio. We did the Still Creek Brothers. Marshall did some things here. A couple other bands. I can't think of anything right now.
You've got some great old gear here. What's any pieces of note that is your favorite?
Yeah, I mean, as far as gear goes, I've got some things that are pretty cool. I've got a 1958 console down here.
I was actually admiring that earlier, and I wanted to see if I can get a peek of that. It's a broadcast console, right?
Yeah, it's a broadcast console. It's been modified. It only has a couple channels, but that's enough for what I need. And I could turn it into a stereo recording thing, but most people want more tracks these days.
Sure.
So, but yeah, for a live thing, it's great. I use it for a couple other things, a couple other enhancements. You know, it's all old. It's all about to fall apart at any second, and that just enhances the studio experience.
Keeps everyone on their toes, right? Collapse is imminent.
Yeah,
I dig it, man.
You know, it keeps it fresh. So we're happy when people come in here and have a good time. So.
Well, thanks so much, man. We had a ball here today, and I can't wait to hear the end result on Hot Wax.
Likewise.
All right, Seattle. It's always a good time up there. I want to say a big thank you to Marshall, Kirsten, the cats that backed us up. Of course, Mr. Roy Kay's fantastic studio, all the bands that played the Rockabilly Ball. I owe an apology to Marika and the Go Get 'Em Boys. They're a fantastic band. They closed out the night at the Rockabilly Ball in Seattle. Marika and the Go Get 'Em Boys, I have been drinking a little bit, I have to confess, and for some reason the footage, I thought I filmed some. I don't know what the heck happened. So we'll catch up with you, you lovely lady, and your fine cats sooner than later. But if you're out there on the town, go out and check out Marika and the Go Get 'Em Boys. They're a great band. And of course, big props to Miss Amy. She came up with an original tune. We did a cool killer cover, and it's going to be out real soon. Look for that record. Miss Amy's debut 45 7-inch on Rockin Records from Vancouver, Canada, and I can't wait to hear it. So there we go. Okay, folks, so my next guest hails all the way from the Midwest, Chicago. He's probably one of the finest bass players in the land, probably one of the finest bass players of all time. I've known him a long time. many incarnations of bands that he played in. We've had the fortune of staying with him and being buddies for a long time. He was just in Boston. We sat down and got the chance to get him on film. He's now playing with a little outfit called J.D. McPherson. Maybe you've heard of that cat. He's having a little bit of success lately. So this cat needs no introduction. His name's Jimmy Sutton, and we had a little sit down in Boston, Massachusetts. I'm going to have a drink, as you should too. Let's see what Jimmy has to say. Cheers. All right, here we are backstage with Mr. Jimmy Sutton himself. The greatest spaceman in the land, I think.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin.
Of course, man. It's great to see you after all these years.
It's great to see you too, Kevin.
Here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Great to be here in Boston, Massachusetts.
Did you have a good show tonight?
I think we had a great show. I loved it. Excellent audience.
So, what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, is do a little retrospective from back in the day. Because the first time I ever saw you play bass was Indianapolis, I think back in Ronnie Dawson, and I think the Moondogs.
Yeah, that's going way back.
So can we get a little retrospective of Jimmy Sutton and how you came to be?
Well, then we have to go back further than that.
Let's do it. Let's go way back.
You know, having bands with I mean, my older brothers kind of influenced me. They got me into the Ramones and the Clash and Blondie and things like that, and you know, late '70s kind of punk rock, new wave stuff, and at a certain point, rockabilly and the whole like cat band thing kind of went hand in hand with that, and I kind of got swept up in that. But my first bands were with my brother in the basement, rehearsing and playing for nobody.
As most of our bands were.
For years, yeah. But then I kind of hooked up with some high school buddies, and my first rockabilly band was this band called the Blue Notes. And then it kind of formed into the title, the Rockin' Blue Notes. And,
when you started rocking?
Yeah, and that's with my good buddy Slink Moss, who actually I'm going to be working with him real soon again to put out an album on my label High Style.
Very cool.
It's called the Slink Moss Explosion. You should check it out. I think you'll dig it. And then after that, I went through other experimental times with different bands.
LSD?
Experimental times with other bands, and I was in some other rockabilly bands in Chicago, the Rebel Rousers, and I had a band, oh gee, I can't even remember a lot of names of them. But one of the bands that kind of like took off, actually, oh yeah, I think it was the Moondogs. That's what we're talking about.
That's right. Well, I saw you there in Indy.
Yeah.
I think it was the one that was still in Fairmont, James Dean's hometown. Fairmont. Before I moved to Indianapolis, I saw you with Ronnie Dawson. And then
Fairmont, Indiana. The festival is called the Rockin' Rebel Weekend.
That's right.
Weekend.
Yes.
It wasn't a weekender. It was a weekend. And that was the Moondogs played the first one. Many of them. And how I met Ronnie Dawson, the great Ronnie Dawson, Rockin' Bones, action-packed Ronnie Dawson, was through Jim Heath of Reverend Horton Heat. We used to open for them a lot, play shows at this club in Chicago on Lincoln Avenue called Lounge Acts. And he would say, "Jimmy, you know Ronnie Dawson?" I'm like, "Yeah." I love Ronnie Dawson. I just picked up his new record on No Hit called Loud Rhythm. I think it's called Loud Rhythm. And I said, "Love him." He goes, "Man, he is great." He goes, "I gotta hook you up with him." He says, "He's a badass. He'll kick both of our asses." Anyway, he was right. Long story short, he hooked me up with Ronnie Dawson, and the Moondogs backed him up in Chicago, early 90s. And it was just, the chemistry was great, Ronnie Dawson and I. He's just, I mean, he's like...
Funny, Ronnie Dawson's
the man, you know?
We were chatting earlier about resting and putting the cell phone down and taking vacations. There's a cat from Providence, Rhode Island called Jack Smith. He used to back up Jack Smith and Rockabilly Planet in the 80s, a little bit older guy. Ronnie used to stay with him on tour. And Ronnie used to, before the gig, every night, he'd say, "Here, I need me a little cat nap." and he would put on pajamas and blinders for like 20 minutes and lay down and sleep before every gig, just 20 minutes. But it was important to him, and he had to do it because he needed that rest. So
He needed to turn his cell phone off.
he needed, well, they didn't have him back then. His internal cell phone needed to be off back
Per
then,
se.
right? That's it, man.
We had a conversation about turning cell phones off.
Turn your cell phone off.
That's why I mentioned that.
So moving forward.
So anyway, and then that's how you kind of met me, was during that time. Maybe that might have been
Mighty Blue Kings after that.
Yeah, but the Fairmont Festival might have been number 2 or 3 by the time I was playing with Ronnie Dawson and
Gotcha.
the Moondogs. But after the Moondogs, I did helped form a band called the Mighty Blue Kings.
Yes.
And that was a pretty successful rhythm and blues jump band. We started in the summer of '94.
Killer band.
And thank you very much. And it kind of got swept up with the whole swing movement, which kind of came around '96.
Yeah.
And so we're all primed and ready for that. And
We used to do that great Slim and Slam tune. Did you do it with Mighty Blue Kings?
Oh, no, I didn't do that with the Mighty Blue
was
Kings.
that
Because
Four Toms?
after the Mighty Blue Kings, see, the Mighty Blue Kings had this great stint at the Green Mill in Chicago every Tuesday night.
Midnight at the
For
Mill.
almost 2 years. And then after the Mighty Blue Kings, I started this band with Joel Patterson, Jonathan Doyle, and Jim Barclay called the Four Charms. We're just kind of a small combo jump rhythm and blues outfit. And we did a lot of Slim Gaylord.
Of course.
Hit That Jive Jack. And, some Tiny Grimes and Bill Jennings and
I still got
real
I had
great,
the 45 and I had the cassette too.
You have the cassette.
I have the cassette.
Wow,
It's probably worth a couple bucks now. What do you reckon?
That's rare.
Hello, eBay. I should have bought it. You just signed it. It would be worth double.
The cassette. That's pretty funny. And anyway, so the Four Charms, we played there at the Green Mill for about 4 years, and it was just a great band. I love those guys. I miss them. We're all good buddies.
Sure.
But I just kind of
We see Joel around once in a while.
absolutely. Still do a lot of work with Joel Patterson, phenomenal guitar player, and I see Jonathan Doyle here and there. He's lived down in Austin, Texas. And Jim Barclay, every once in a while, I'll see him when he's not riding his bicycle. But then after that,
I am. You should watch out on that bike.
Yes, I am. Watch out on a bike. Don't get a concussion. Another inside joke. Apologize. And then after the Four Charms came, let's see, it was kind of a...
But you branched out. You did some other stuff because I saw you in Boston. You played with Andrew Bird.
I did about a year and a half of touring with Andrew Bird. I had to kind of spread my wings a little bit.
Of course, yeah.
And Andrew Bird, the very talented Andrew Bird, that was a great time. That was a really great time. That was also a very kind of, that was during 9/11. So it to me that has a lot of milestones.
Well, what I think makes you're obviously a fantastic player, and I don't say that lightly because I think you're the best at what you do. But I think you've branched out in many areas and things that are outside of the rock and roll, which is makes you the bass player that you are. Because that was a very different gig to perhaps things you had done before.
Well, I like a lot of kind of music. I like all kinds of different kinds of music, and one time. I know it might sound a little contrived, but I was in Milwaukee outside of a bar, and actually that was a Mighty Blue Kings show, and Hubert Sumlin had come out because he was good friends of our saxophone player. And we're hanging out in front, and I met him, and one, like the wise old guy kind of tells me, he says, Jimmy, he says, just one thing, don't lie in your music. And I kind of like reverberated since then. And I was thought, okay, how do I apply that to what I'm doing? So every once in a while, I kind of remind myself, all right, don't lie. And so that being said, I grew up listening to the Ramones, late 70s punk rock, early 80s new wave and all that, and a lot of different kinds of music. So I don't want to be afraid to let those things seep in
Come out, yeah,
to
yeah.
the music that I do, even though I'm into like rockabilly and rock and roll, a lot of vintage music. It's kind of riding a fine line, you know, having feet on many different sides of the fence. So I guess that's my journey. I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, the journey ends in a nice place.
Not lying.
The journey ends in a nice place because we just saw a killer show tonight with you and JD. And, you know, it's a killer band, it's a killer act. It's a lot of fun to see you guys. We had you in Boston a few years ago, first gig ever in Boston. True story. But you guys are doing well. And, you know, I was talking to Robert from Big Sandy about this, and he said, you know, it's great for all of us, man. You guys are paving ways and opening doors, and it's roots music is coming back with you guys and getting out to a bigger audience, you know, which is, I think, important. You know what I mean? For what everybody does, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, and absolutely, and in the bands that have come before us that kind of paved the way too, it's kind of a give and take. So, thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
So, your fantastic studio in Chicago, Illinois. Please tell me all about that. And we got the studio and also the label now too, right? So, what's happening there? I know you have the Balfuries.
Well, that's correct. During the Four Charms era, we did 2 CDs, and I put it out. We put it out independently, but I used a company called High Style Enterprises. High Style Enterprises was actually a fanzine that I had put out with Gabrielle, my wife at the time, and Dan and Jill Obermeyer, and it was a fanzine that dealt with music, architecture, art, lifestyle.
3 Little Pigs?
Oh, 3 Little Pigs. Well, that was slightly different. That was another art project, but it was called Screamin' Magazine. So it was under High Style Enterprises. I put out the 2 Four Charms records under High Style.
Okay.
And then I started putting other albums out under High Style. And during that time, I bought a house in Chicago and had a raw attic. The house was built in 1889, and the attic was raw as can be. The first thing I did was have the roof replaced and had skylights put in. At first it was going to be an art studio because I'm also an artist.
Yeah.
And I just started collecting mics and getting influenced by some friends, and was given some tape machines. And that just pretty much started me getting tape machines.
Now let me ask you this about the tape machines, because I watched a thing online about the tape machines. You didn't go with the Ampex route. You went with the Crown machines, or what did you go with?
Well, the Ampex were too expensive for me. I couldn't get them on eBay, and I ended up. I was given a. It was called a Concertone, Berlant Concertone 2020.
Okay.
It's given that by a friend, and I had this fella I know restore it for me. In the meantime, I bought a few others just for parts, and they ended up running better than the original one that I was given. And it just kind of built on itself, and ended up with some Ampex mic mixers and some Altec mic mixers, and then a friend of mine, Alex Hall, who's a really great engineer and also just a sharp fella, really kind of helped me solidify the studio and wire it all together up in my attic. And this is what is High Style Studios now.
And the first JD record is recorded there.
Well, yeah. How it worked out was I was going to put all, really put all my energy into High Style, and JD had originally. He contacted me on MySpace. Remember MySpace?
Way back when, kids.
And he said, "Hey man, I'm a fan of all your work and your bands. Give me some shows up in Chicago." So I did, and our relationship continued. And I found myself with him always on the same page philosophically we wanted to go. And I talked him into me putting him out on my label High Style and producing the record. we did. And we did that with a whole Chicago crew of musicians.
Yeah.
And also, then we did this video, and he's really good with video and editing.
Which is in the studio.
Which is filmed in the studio. Check it out. It's Northside Gal, JD McPherson, on the High Style channel. And pretty much that just it just kind of took off, semi-viral, and here we are. It just kind of, that was the catalyst for us sitting here.
Well, it's funny. I remember you called me up and said, "Can you get me a gig in Boston? I got this new thing going on." I said, "Well, I don't care. Jimmy's got a thing. It's going to be good." So we worked it out, and then my booking agent at the club at the time she's like, "Have you even heard this record?" I said, "I'll give it a listen." Holy shit! I was like, "Damn!"
That's back.
Blew my mind.
That's back when we had a U-Haul trailer. Ooh, the Belfairies. Belfairies are a band that I originally saw playing down in Austin, Texas, back in, late 90s, mid 90s. That was a while.
The 90s, 50s, as Deke calls it.
Exactly. And Joey Simeone, the singer-songwriter, the Belfairies frontman, him and I have been talking for years about working together, and finally it kind of came to fruition, where we recorded a record about a year ago, and it just came out on High Style, and we're very proud of it. We're working it now, and they're touring hard. Check it out. It's called Working Man's Belfairies on High Style.
It's killer.
Thank you very much. And other than that, we have a lot of irons in the fire. We have a lot of projects, and we're just kind of building the team, and we're really excited about where we're going to go with High Style Records, and also J.D. McPherson, and also Kevin Patey, and Jittery Jack.
I'll pay you later.
Thank you very much for coming out to this show, and thanks for doing what you do. And thank you, Beck.
You're welcome.
Jimmy Sutton, great guy, great player. The funny thing about the interview, the audio quality is pretty bad because we didn't realize there was some kind of fan overhead. I got to work on that, you know. I'm not an expert of these things. I'm winging it as I go, so we will work on the audio quality. But the funny thing about it is if you listen to that interview in the background, you can hear two people having a very heavy conversation. It's none other than J.D. McPherson chatting with Miss Amy in the background. So if you listen close, you can hear those two cats talking guitars and music, I do believe. So, but once again, Jimmy, thanks so much for being on the show. It's always great to hang out with you and catch up, and hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of you. I'm sure we will. You and J.D. and the guys are really taking it to the top these days. So best of luck with everything. All right, folks, it's that time when we fire up the old Jittery Jack vision and see if we can't track down someone to talk to someplace out there in the world. My next guest is an absolute legend, a cat that reintroduced the music to the world in the 1970s. Guy from England, Teddy Boy, rockabilly legend. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Levi Dexter. Levi, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
There you are. I can see you, man. That's some nice wallpaper there. I'm guessing the missus picked that out, right?
No, we live in an old house. It's sort of like an old manor house, and it's what came with the house.
Now it's beautiful.
Yes, I think.
To the manor born, then, yes?
Yes, exactly.
There you go, man. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. It's an honor to have you on here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I mean, your story has been told, but I'd like to, if I could, just go back a little bit, maybe a little retrospective. Tell me a story or two from the early days, if you could, because you were there in the beginning of the revival, if you will. I know a lot of people here in the States thinks you're a British guy and you're a Londoner, but you're an Essex boy, right?
Really, I'm a Londoner. I grew up in London, in Chelsea, till I was about 15. And then my mother moved us to Essex. And I was there, pretty much until I was about 20, 21. And then I was back in London where I met Lee Childers, who became my manager.
Sure.
And he formed Levi and the Rockettes in '77. And that was the start of it.
And the rest is history.
Yeah.
What was I was actually born in England, but I moved here quite young, and I remember Top of the Pops and the Matchbox, getting some hits and getting some action. But I remember the Rockabilly revival sort of starting to happen when I was young. But what was it like to be active at that time in the scene? I mean, for everyone I've talked to said it was a pretty wild time, man.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough time to be. I was a teddy boy, obviously.
Sure.
And it was a very strict code then. You had to wear the gear. You had to have your hair greasy, wear, a drape and creepers and all that. And you were really only allowed to listen to 50s music. Even 1960 and early 60s was considered not cool. So, just take stupid glasses off.
Good sound effect.
Yeah.
I'll put that on the new record.
Yeah. So, growing up in that, it was very strict, but sort of a cult thing, but I really liked it. It was a tough time. By '77, there was a war between the punks and the Teds, and it got a bit hairy for a while until '77. Levi and the Rockettes did an Eddie and Sheena tour, which was like a Ted and punk tour, and that pretty much was the end of the war. After that, everybody kind of let it go. And
well, it's funny to me because you hear so many
kind of rock and roll,
It seems to me when you did that tour, it must have been the melding of the worlds when the punk and the Ted sort of made up and became buddies. Because a lot of the punk rock guys, you hear the stories. Joe Strummer certainly, and a lot of the other guys, they were big rock and roll fans. They loved the music. So at the end of the day, if you're a music fan, you're going to get over the gang mentality and just get with the program, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, my manager, he was from Kentucky, Lee Black Childers. He had been in the business forever. He used to work with. Back in the day, in the early 70s, he worked with the Hoop Ball, like All the Way to Memphis is written about him if you look at the back of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Then he worked with Bowie during Diamond Dogs, and when I met him, he was managing Johnny Thunders. So
yeah,
the Heartbreakers were his other band, and he started, Levi and the Rockettes, got us together, and they were all. You'd be surprised how many of them were really rockabilly fans,
Sure.
I mean, Levi and the Ripcords opened for the Clash in '81.
Gotcha.
At Bonds in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
And we played some of their parties and stuff, and they used to let us use their rehearsal space. And really cool guys.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
not what you would think being a teddy boy,
Yeah. Well, at some point, everyone expands their horizons, I suppose. So that must have been a trip doing one of those Bonds Casino gigs. I mean, those are legendary shows. Didn't they have to add like 8 shows because the promoter oversold the place out? Like.
Yeah, there was supposed to be a weekend, and they way oversold it. So the fire chief closed it down. And so they renegotiated, and they said, okay, we're going to have to play for 14 nights. And we'll have different opening bands each night. I think Levi and the Rockettes were the second night, yeah.
That's very cool, man. So, of course, by that time, were you living in New York at that time? Had you made the move to the States?
Yeah, I came over in, like, July 78. And went to Los Angeles first and Hollywood for about 6 weeks, and then drove across. And then we were down in Kentucky and Louisiana trying to get ourselves Americanized for about 8 months. And then we
How'd
came
that
out
work
the
out?
other side. It was an experience. It wasn't really like a musical thing where we were, you know, really working out hard on our music. We were more just getting the feel of what it was like to be in America and all the American things that were alien to us, you know.
Sure.
So yeah, it was crazy fun.
Good times we had. I'm no,
for a bunch
no
of guys
doubt.
fresh off the boat, it was pretty funny. It's kind of like Rockabilly Spinal Tap, I think. It's just constant crazy jokes and fun and getting up to mischief. But in the end, after about 8 months, we were done with the South and we went to New York and we moved into Blondie's old loft on the Bowery in New York. And we started playing November 10th, 1979. Yeah. No, 78.
Gotcha.
And that was with the Cramps. That was our first gig. So,
Wow.
you know, after that, we just went backwards and forwards. I'm a West Coast guy. I wanted to be settled on the West Coast.
Well, the weather's nicer.
Yeah, and we split it up kind of evenly, but by the end of 79, the guys in the band, they wanted to, most of them wanted to be on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So that pretty much was, along with other things, was the demise of Levi and the Rockettes. And then once we broke up, I had already jammed with Brian and Gary Setzer when he had a band called the Tomcats. So I flew out, well, actually, Lee flew out Brian and Gary, and he tried out for the Rip Chords, and he was going to do it for about a week. They stayed for about 10 days, and we went in the studio and jammed and everything. And but in the end, he wanted to be a front guy, and didn't really need another front guy, so, you know.
The rest is history, I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, he went back from the Stray Cats, and the Rip Chords went off to play in Berlin and London, and that was the next stage.
That was it, man. That was it. Well, you know, it's fantastic to see you out and about on the scene. We've crossed paths quite a few times in the last couple of years. Rockabilly Rave and Viva Las Vegas. I was talking to Miss Amy earlier today. Miss Amy was on the side of the stage watching you bop at the Rockettes reunion set at Vegas last year, and she goes, "Do you think Levi will do one of his dance moves on the TV show for you?" I said, "I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know how to do it. You might have to save that for in person." But she said, "There's no one that bops like Levi."
I think. Yeah, if I'm going to play, I'm going to get into it. That's my thing. I like to get the band to get me going, and then I'm off. I want to jump around and bop and do my whole show. You know, if I didn't sweat and I just stood there singing, I'd probably be pretty disappointed coming off stage. So, you know, people know that I'm a hard worker on stage, and it's not a put on thing, it's just what I do, you know.
Well, it's very impressive, and I got to tell you, it's inspiring to a guy like me, because I always feel it the next day if I'm moving around too much. So it's a big inspiration to see you doing your thing up there, man. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, 2017 will be my 40th year anniversary. So, you know, since started playing. So, yeah, at the time I feel no pain because it's all adrenaline.
That's it, man.
You know, and it's all going on. Yeah, coming down the stairs in the morning, that's when you feel it.
I can feel that one, man. I feel it already. I haven't even gone up the stairs yet. Well, listen, I really want to say thanks for having you on the show. We've been talking about it for some time. It's been great catching up, and we're going to be heading out on the road in the spring. So hopefully we'll see you and your lovely wife out in the West Coast, the Northwest.
Yeah, that would be awesome. You really need to get up here and play in Portland. I live pretty close to Portland. Yeah,
well, I've already got the gig lined up, so I'll be in touch. I'll let you know when, and hopefully you can come out, and Amy will wear one of those lovely dresses your wife makes, and we'll get you up for.
That'd be awesome.
You can teach me some moves, man.
Yeah, have a little jam or something.
That's it, man. No doubt. Teach me some of those bopping steps.
Yeah, and you've got to come over to my place. It's a really nice old manor house. There's a small hall in the basement.
No kidding.
It's perfect for a jam and, you know,
Wow.
parties. Or if I want to crank my music, there's no other there's nobody else around, so there's no complaints for the noise or.
Well, count us in, man.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I'm going to be out and about next year. I'm talking to people in Brazil. I'm probably going to go to Japan in September.
Nice.
December 18th, I'll be playing the Roadrunners Christmas party in Berlin. So
nice one.
Hopefully the German cats will come out and go crazy.
I'm sure they will, man. Was that a cat that just walked behind you?
Yeah, this is. I don't know if you can see him. This is Marvin Plainwater. Hang on. Well, he's kind of shy, really, but there you go.
I see him. He's one cool cat, man.
Yeah, he's got it all, you know.
He's got the hair, he's got the looks, he's got it all, man.
For the war paint.
All right, buddy. Well, listen, thanks so much. We're going to see you out on the West Coast, no doubt. We'll pay you a visit. And signing off, I appreciate you being on the show once again. All right, Levi?
Say hi to Amy for me, too.
I will do, buddy.
Great talking with you.
Say hi to Bernie. Take care, pal.
I will. Thank you. Bye-bye.
So long. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Levi Dexter, what a guy. He's a lovely fellow, an absolute talent. No one dances like Levi. He puts everything into it, man. He's a wild man indeed. Like Miss Amy says, no one pops like Levi Dexter. He's something to behold, and a man that's kind of held the flame and kept things going all through the years. Just a real honor to have him and sit down and chat with him, and hopefully we'll see him again out there on the road real soon. So Levi, thanks again, buddy. I appreciate it. And of course, a big shout out to your lovely wife, Miss Bernie Dexter, who gives Miss Amy all the lovely dresses that she wears. Miss Amy loves Bernie's dresses, as many of the ladies out there on the scene do. So Bernie, thanks for letting us borrow your fella for a little bit. We appreciate it, okay? Okay, folks, so that's our show. Once again, thanks again for tuning in. Thanks for all the emails and messages I get. Lots of people enjoying the show out there. Do me a favor, if you like the show, tell your friends, spread the word, share it. The more people watching, the more reason I have to have more drinks and keep doing it. So we appreciate all the help, for sure. Next month's episode, we're going to go north. We're going to Canada. We're going to go to Montreal. We're going to go to Quebec City. We're going to go to Toronto. We're going to meet some real cool cats up there. And, hey, we're going to have a time, because that's what we do around here. So, once again, folks, as I always say, if you can't be good, be great. We'll see you soon around the horseshoe. Take care. Cheers.